So the first use case we want to look at is actually ordering services. The cloud consumer orders a new unmanaged and a new managed server using the self-service portal. And the key benefit here is that CloudForms offers a single pane of glass to manage the full life cycle. Full life cycle means not only requesting, but also managing and retiring from an end user point of view of resources. And that's not limited to a single cloud environment, but it could span internal clouds, public clouds, hypervisor environments of existing hypervisors, etc. So it's really a single pane of glass across all of these. You will see it offers a self-service user interface that is adaptable. It's very rich. It's adaptable based on the actual roles of the user using it. And also the cloud management platform, CloudForms, offers rich integration capabilities with external systems. So we can integrate email. We can show how a CMDB could be integrated, or other infrastructure elements like external load balancers, routers, backup, and other components like this. So the demo flow is the consumer uses CloudForms to order instances. Those are then instantiated in OpenStack. While they're being instantiated, confirmation emails are sent out, change management and configuration management database records are created, and the actual system that is running in OpenStack is then registered in Red Hat Satellite, and once that happens, it is consumable through the consumer. So let's take a look at what it looks like. I'm logging into CloudForms, the cloud management platform, as a consumer. And the first screen that will open is a view on the services. Once CloudForms decides to actually let me in, let's just reload it. Okay, let's try again. Consumer. That happens when you set it up before, and this is the browser session gets stale for a while. So the concept of service is an important concept that needs some explaining beforehand. A service is not the same thing as a virtual machine. A service is like an umbrella for one or many virtual machines. You could, for example, think of a service also something like a full web application stack consisting of a web server, an application server, and a database. And that might be 3 different virtual machines all managed together as a single service. For this specific scenario, we've created services that represent primarily single machines. So I'm going to order a service right away, and then I'll explain a little bit more about it. So I need to provide a secure shell key here. I've already prepared that. So I just hit submit and have ordered my first unmanaged service. And the second time I'm going to do this, let me explain what I'm actually doing here. So here I have this catalog of services, and what you should also be aware of, we only have a very limited amount of menu items here. To just take a note of that, you will see later on other roles have different service entries here, because it's an adaptable role-based user interface. So the next service that I'm going to order is a unmanaged service, and it is a managed service. I just ordered an unmanaged service, and the difference between a managed service and an unmanaged service is that for a managed service, the actual IT operations team will be responsible. So the consumer will just get an unprivileged user on that instance. Whereas for a unmanaged service, the consumer will get a standard user that can acquire root privileges. So this is why for the managed service, we actually need to enter a username. I'm using my own here. I'm pretty much using the same secure shell public key here. And I leave the size at small because small image is sufficient for me. I hit submit. And what now happens is that I can take a look at that request in a request queue. And what you should see is the approval state. It is currently in pending approval. There's an automatic approval algorithm that checks certain conditions. If that is possible, I will get an automated approval, plus I will be sent an automated approval confirmation email. That's what you just saw popping in for the other service I've ordered. And that's what you're seeing now popping in. And pretty much you can see now it is automatically approved. Reason is auto approving. And now the next step is that service is being provisioned now in the OpenStack environment. Taking a look at the emails that have been sent, you can see here, hello, your service was approved. If provisioning is successful, you'll be notified via email when the service is available. And I can actually get a hyperlink which takes me back to the request. So I could look at the request details. Fortunately, a different browser window is opened there so you couldn't see it. So I'm just copying it and pasting it here. You can see the request details. The reason why I was not automatically logged in is because I logged in here with the fully qualified domain name. And here we use the IP address, which basically does not allow a single sign-on scenario. So let me just try again with the direct link. And here I can see all the different request details. I can see the status. I can see when it was created. And I could also see, for example, the information of what was provided here. So this next email that I am sent is the confirmation of the virtual machine that has been created. So let me just move that up here. Your request to provision a virtual machine was approved and completed. The virtual machine CFME 231 will be available in approximately 15 minutes. The reason why that virtual machine just takes a while is because now that it boots up, the registration with satellite still takes place. The system is also configured, so pretty much it takes a couple of minutes until we can actually use it. I'm copying again the hyperlink to get access to the actual virtual machine. And I can see now in CloudForms, I can see what CloudForms knows about the virtual machine itself. You can see CFME 321 already has an internal IP address. It's a single socket, 2 gigabytes machine. When was it requested? Who is the owner? I am. It's running on Red Hat OpenStack Platform 6 in small size, and currently it is already running. So one nice thing about CloudForms is that it's actually a configurable user interface. So you see a lot of actions that we can take on that virtual machine. One important button here is that admin button, since it allows us to add additional functionality. So the admin button is not there out of the box. That's something that we did through customizing. And what we're doing here is I want to allocate an externally reachable IP address to that machine, because the IP address that is there is just an internal one. So I'm adding another request on that virtual machine, saying, yes, are you sure? And what happens now is that CloudForms requests from OpenStack a so-called floating IP to be assigned to that virtual machine. And it probably takes a couple of seconds until that IP address is available. So let me just refresh this. And you can see now there's a there's an IP address assigned to that virtual machine. I will just take a quick note of that. That is CFME 213. That is the IP address. We can also see it has a tag associated with it. So we tagged it as an unmanaged virtual machine. Unmanaged basically means the consumer himself is responsible for managing it. I was not providing a username when ordering it. The user is cloud user at that IP address to log in. It's the unmanaged instance, and yeah, that's the information we need for that one. And by the way, I suppose the other virtual machine has also been provisioned already. Let's see. Yes, it says us here. CFME 232 will be also available in a couple of minutes. So let's do the same thing again. I'm using a different path to actually navigate to that virtual machine. I go through my services. And here we see all the services that we've ordered so far. And what you can see here is that I had ordered an hour before in managed and unmanaged instance before. So now I'm looking at that remaining instance that I just ordered now, just a couple of minutes ago. And I see there's a single virtual machine as part of that service. So I'm opening the virtual machine. And I'm also allocating an IP address here. And again, it takes a couple of seconds until that IP address is available. So that's CFME 232. We just write this down. That was WRICHTR. It was the managed scenario. And let's refresh to see if the floating IP was already assigned. Yes, it was. So let's just copy it over. Okay. And it's the managed scenario. So this is pretty much the information we need later on. And actually, I think we should be ready to log into that virtual machine. So let's try this. Opening a new tab. So that was my user. I'm just being called now. Let me just decline it. Here we go. I've never connected to that system before, so I need to confirm. And as you can see, I'm logged in. Now, when I'm trying to get, for example, root privileges, -I, I'm asked a password. I was never given a password. There's no way for me to actually log in with a password because I'm logging in as using a public key. So that's not a way for me to get root privileges. As you ask me for the root password, I don't have it. So there's no way for me to get a root login. What's interesting though is let's look at a specific package that's installed on the system because we need to figure out how to update that. So let's rpm-q open SSL. And we just pin down that package name in the managed instance. And by the way, we can do that same thing. Let me just log out again. and the unmanaged instance as well. So I could log in as cloud user at 10.32.105, and I assume it was 48. Let me just validate it. Yes, it was 48. Yes. And here you can see I'm logged in as cloud user now, and cloud user actually has hi Michi. Cloud user has actually the privileges to become root. So here we can also validate, for example, that we're subscribed properly. Subscription manager list. We can see we're status subscribed. We have a Red Hat Enterprise Linux server here, version 7.1. And we can see also, if we do a subscription manager repos, that we are registered against a local satellite system. So we are registered against a sat6.cd.coe/redhat.com, which is our local satellite 6 installation. And by the way, rpm-q OpenSSL also here again returns the same version as before.